In 1780, a prisoner named William Addis sat alone in a damp English cell, holding a small piece of bone and some pig bristles. What he built that night would later save more lives than any doctor of his time. But here is the disturbing part. Before this invention, humans cleaned their teeth with crushed bricks, burnt toast, and yes, even urine. Imagine the smell. Picture the smiles. Most people lost every tooth by age 30, and kissing someone could literally make you sick. So before we uncover this strange forgotten story, drop a comment and tell me which country you are watching from. Hit subscribe too. What comes next will shock you. Picture this. You wake up in ancient Rome. Your mouth tastes like metal. Your gums are bleeding. 3 of your teeth are loose, and 1 is already black. There is no dentist, no painkiller, no clean water waiting at the sink, just a small clay pot filled with imported urine from Portugal. Yes, Portuguese urine was a luxury item. Wealthy Romans paid extra for it because the ammonia inside whitened their teeth. They would swish it around their mouth, spit it out, and feel proud of their bright smile. Now ask yourself, how do we end up here? The answer is simple. Nobody knew germs existed. For thousands of years, people had no clue that tiny invisible creatures lived inside their mouths, eating away at every bite of food they swallowed. Without that knowledge, dental care became a guessing game, a painful, bloody, often deadly one. So humans tried everything. The Babylonians, around 3500 BC, chewed on rough sticks until the ends frayed into soft fibers. They would rub these across their gums, hoping to scrape off the slime. It worked barely. Egyptians went a different route. They crushed eggshells, ox hooves, and burnt animal bones into a gritty powder. Then they smeared this paste onto their fingers and rubbed it across their teeth. The mix did clean some plaque, but it also wore down the enamel until teeth cracked like dry pottery. The Greeks added crushed pumice stone. Chinese used salt and herbs. Indian villages chewed neem twigs every sunrise. Each culture believed they would crack the code. None of them had. Here is the truth. Most adults in the ancient world were missing half their teeth by age 25. By 30, many could not chew solid food. By 40, infections in the mouth had spread into the bloodstream, quietly killing people who never understood why they felt sick. Tooth pain was not just discomfort. It was a death sentence. Roman doctors believed worms lived inside aching teeth, so they would hold burning candles next to the patient's jaw, hoping the worms would crawl out. When that failed, they would yank the tooth out with iron pliers. No anesthesia, no cleaning, no mercy. Some patients bled out. Others got fatal infections within days. And remember, this was the advanced treatment. Poor families could not afford even that. They would tie a string to the rotten tooth, attach the other end to a doorknob, and slam the door shut. If the tooth came out, lucky. If half of it stayed behind, the infection would finish the job. Let that sink in. For most of human history, your smile was not a sign of beauty. It was a warning sign, proof of how close you were to dying. So how did humans escape this nightmare? The first real breakthrough did not come from Rome, not from Egypt, not from Greece. It came from a place nobody expected. It came from the East. While Romans gargled urine and Europeans yanked teeth with doorknobs, an entire region of the world had quietly solved the problem, and nobody in the West was paying attention. The answer grew on trees. In Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, people had been using something called the miswak for over 5,000 years. A small twig, pulled from the Salvadora persica tree, chewed at one end until the fibers softened into a natural brush. It worked. Not by accident, by chemistry. The miswak contains natural compounds that fight bacteria, reduce plaque, and even strengthen gums. Modern scientists tested it in the 1980s and found it more effective than some store-bought toothpastes. 5,000 years ago, no labs, no microscopes, just observation, instinct, and trial. In India, villagers used neem twigs the same way. Bitter, sharp, antibacterial. In China, salt-soaked willow branches. In Persia, licorice root. These cultures did not know why their methods worked. They only knew that they did. And here is something I did not tell you at the start of this video. While Europe was still scraping teeth with rags and ash in the 1500s, China had already invented something far more advanced. The year was 1498. Craftsmen in the court of the Hongji Emperor took a piece of carved bamboo, drilled tiny holes along one end, and tied stiff hog bristles through each hole. He had just created the first true bristle toothbrush in human history. It was sharp. It was rough. It actually cleaned teeth. European travelers eventually saw it during trade missions. They tried it once, complained that the bristles cut their gums, and dismissed the whole thing as a savage tool. That decision cost the West nearly 300 years of dental health. Think about that. Millions of Europeans lost their teeth, suffered infections, and died young simply because a few traders refused to adapt a Chinese invention. Pride blocked progress, and the bodies piled up. Stories like this fascinate you. The small inventions that changed everything. The forgotten people who saved millions. Hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists to dig up exactly these kinds of truths, and the next video might just rewire how you see your entire morning routine. Back to the story. By the 1600s, Chinese brushes finally started trickling into European courts as exotic luxury items. Wealthy nobles displayed them like art. Most never actually used them. A toothbrush was a status symbol, not a hygiene tool. Common people? Still scrubbing with cloth, ash, and whatever they could find. Class divide ran straight through the human mouth. Rich teeth survived a little longer. Poor teeth rotted on schedule. Something had to break. And in 1770, inside a filthy London prison, the break finally came from the most unlikely person imaginable. His name was William Addis. In 1770, he was not a scientist, not a doctor, not a noble. He was a rag trader from East London who got involved in a street riot and ended up arrested. The judge sent him to Newgate Prison, one of the most brutal jails in English history. Inside, conditions were horrifying. Stone walls dripping with damp, rats the size of cats. Hundreds of men packed into cells built for dozens. The air smelled of sweat, sickness, and rotting food. And every morning, William watched the other prisoners do the same useless thing, rub their teeth with a dirty rag dipped in soot and salt. He stared at them and thought, there has to be a better way. Then it hit him. One evening, after eating a small piece of meat, he saved the bone instead of tossing it. He cleaned it, shaped it, and using a tool borrowed from another inmate, he drilled tiny holes along one end. Next, he begged a prison guard for stiff bristles, the kind used to brush horses. The guard agreed. William threaded the bristles through the holes, tied them off with thin wire, trimmed the ends flat. That night, alone in the freezing cell, he brushed his teeth for the first time using a tool that actually worked. Let that sink in. The modern toothbrush, the same shape, the same idea, the same mechanics you used this morning, was invented inside a prison cell by a man with no education, no money, and no clean water. When William was released in 1780, he did not forget what he made. He started a small company in London, producing toothbrushes by hand using cattle bone and boar bristles. He called the business Wisdom Toothbrushes. That company is still running today, over 240 years later, owned by his descendants, selling brushes in 60 countries. One prisoner, one bone, one idea turned into a global empire. But the real story is not Addis. It is what his invention triggered. By the 1840s, factories were mass-producing toothbrushes for working-class families. Dental hygiene moved from luxury to daily habit. By 1900, average life expectancy in industrial cities began rising, and oral health was one of the quiet reasons. Then came 1938. A company called DuPont invented nylon, a synthetic fiber strong enough to replace animal bristles. Within months, the first fully modern toothbrush hit American shelves. Cheaper, cleaner, mass-produced, affordable to nearly every household. And the results were staggering. Heart disease rates linked to gum infection dropped. Children kept their adult teeth into old age. Smiling, once a sign of risk, became a sign of beauty, success, and confidence. A man jailed for rioting accidentally rewrote what it meant to be human. Every toothbrush in your bathroom right now exists because of him. But there is one part of this story your brain refuses to register. There is one part your brain refuses to register. And it is not about William Addis, not about Rome, not about China. It is about you. Right now, somewhere in your bathroom, sits a small plastic stick with synthetic bristles. You used it this morning without thinking. You will use it again tonight and tomorrow and every day for the rest of your life. Yet you have never once stopped to feel grateful for it. Why? Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, a fancy term for a simple human flaw. Our brains adjust to good things so quickly that we stop noticing them. The miracle becomes the routine. The routine becomes invisible, and invisible things lose their value. Think about it. The toothbrush is the result of 5,000 years of pain, blood, and failed experiments. Millions died because they did not have one. Empires lost wars because their soldiers' mouths were rotting. Marriages were arranged based on whether someone still had teeth. Now, it costs $2 at a gas station. That is the strangest part of being human. We chase what we do not have, then forget what we own. Here's the truth. If every toothbrush on Earth vanished tomorrow, panic would spread within weeks. Hospitals would fill up with gum infections. Heart disease rates would climb. Productivity would crash. Within a year, life expectancy itself would start to fall. The toothbrush is not a hygiene product. It is a quiet pillar holding up modern civilization, and nobody notices. But before this video ends, there is one more thing about your toothbrush almost nobody knows. In the 1960s, NASA had a problem. Astronauts heading into space needed to brush their teeth in zero gravity. Floating water droplets, runaway toothpaste, loose bristles, all of it became a hazard inside a sealed capsule. So NASA partnered with dental researchers to redesign the toothbrush from scratch. They studied bristle angles. They tested pressure points. They mapped the exact curve of human gums. The result was a new bristle pattern, soft tips, angled tufts, multi-level heights, designed to clean teeth without water, without mess, and without damage. That same pattern came back to Earth in the 1970s. It is the design sitting on shelves in every supermarket today. The toothbrush in your hand right now, built on space-age research that started 250,000 miles above your head. Let that sink in. A prisoner started it. A chemist scaled it, and astronauts perfected it. 3 men, 3 centuries, 3 completely different worlds, all connected by one tiny object you use without a second thought. So tonight, when you stand at your bathroom sink and pick up that small plastic stick, pause for 1 second. Just one. Because what you are holding is not just a toothbrush. It is a survival tool, a scientific milestone, a 5,000-year-old story compressed into 30 seconds of foam and water. And now, you finally see it. The smallest objects often carry the heaviest stories. A bone, bristle, a prison cell, a space mission, all hiding inside something you will use again in a few hours. If this story changed how you see your morning routine, watch How Soap Saved Civilization next. You will not believe what is hiding there.